Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre, Am I the A-hole? Today I've got 3 posts for you. 2 of them have updates, so let's not waste any time and get started with that first story. This one is from user Symphony of Music. My mom and I, 18 female, live in a crummy apartment complex in New York City. Our apartment itself isn't crummy. We've taken a lot of pride in making the inside of our apartment look nicer than it really is. But truth be told, the building is crummy. So much so that the radiator in my room is broken and I get heat every day of the year, even in summer. I prefer not to open my windows during the summer as well because all types of questionable creepy crawlies like to come through the window. So I usually sleep on top of the covers or without pants. Last night it was too hot, so I slept without a shirt. But I was in the comfort of my bedroom and I keep my door closed when I sleep. This morning I woke up to find my mom staring at me. She scared me crapless, especially because I have a loft bed and was making direct eye contact with her as soon as I opened my eyes. She stood there and screamed at me for 20 minutes telling me to put a shirt on and calling me a ruthless floozy for sleeping without a shirt while her boyfriend was here. I put a pillow in front of my body and closed my eyes to go back to sleep. This wasn't good enough and she ripped the pillow from my arms and told me to put on some clothes before her boyfriend came in here and saw me like this. I told her I keep my door closed for a reason, and if she's worried about her boyfriend bothering me, that's more telling of her boyfriend, not me. She was absolutely seething and told me I'm to live under her rules while I'm in her house, and that includes not being trashy and sleeping with some clothes on. I figured she was being ridiculous, but her boyfriend heard the commotion, ended up coming into the room to get her, without knocking mind you, and left me flailing to find a sheet to cover with. He was kind of eyeing me and told me my mom was right and I needed to sleep with clothes on. I'm having a hard time understanding. Am I really an a-hole here? Edit. No, I can't lock my door. She won't allow me to replace the doorknob with one that comes with a lock. I'll be purchasing a doorstop soon, as well as find time to discuss with my mom what her blow-up was about. We have a pretty decent relationship outside of this, which is why this shocked me and had me confused as to whether I was wrong or not. Short answer, I don't think OP's the a-hole, but I do think she needs to be careful. And that's really short. So now let's move on to the update. After the whole debacle, I did purchase a wedge for under my door from Walmart. It worked, and I didn't have any more issues with waking up to people in my face. I used the excuse that it was to keep our cat from opening my door at night, and my mom seemed fine with that. While her boyfriend was here, and even after he was gone, my mom seemed detached and sort of out of it. I asked if everything was okay and she said she needed to sort out some feelings first, but she promised we'd talk when she was better. I said okay and left it at that. Couple days later, her boyfriend came back for another weekend stay. The day after he came back, they had an at-home date night with drinks and fancy takeout, and that night I woke up to my door being messed with. I call out to see if it's my mom and got no response. I pulled on a t-shirt and shorts and pulled the door wedge out to check, and her boyfriend is standing at my door. He was drunk and I was a bit panicked because I thought something had happened to my mom and he needed help. But he just stood there for a few seconds without saying anything. He didn't seem to be sleepwalking or in peril, so I said, "I'm uncomfortable, I'm closing the door." Before I could close the door all the way, my mom flew out of her room, saw him, and started cussing and screaming and telling him he needed to leave. They argued back and forth for a while, but eventually she got him out the door. After calming her down, I took her to her room and we had a talk. It turns out the day she had come into my room, she had been on his phone and saw he was talking to his brother-in-law about me in very disgusting ways. Talking about how I was growing up to be very shapely and mature and that he couldn't wait until I moved out so he could dump my mother for me. He said far more explicit things that were all extremely worrying, especially since we've known him since I was 11. My mom had come to tell me to be careful around him while she thought of a way to break it off safely. But when she saw I was sleeping shirtless, she had some misplaced anger. He's out of our lives now, thankfully. I'm just glad the situation is over. Well, definitely not the a-hole now. It's a good thing you guys got rid of that guy. He was bad news. Thankfully, apart from some disgusting messages to his brother-in-law and standing out your door in a very creepy manner, things didn't escalate any further and you guys got rid of him before they did. Or this could have turned into a very different story. Okay, and now let's move on to the next story. This one is from user Throwaway Angry at Mill. I, 31 female, can't have kids. PCOS. When I met my now husband, 33 male, I was very upfront about it and told him that I never wanted kids, nor could I physically give him one. He understood and didn't want kids either, so we are on the same page. My husband is the only male child out of 7 siblings. My mother-in-law was furious when she found out we weren't having kids. We tried setting boundaries with her on this and other topics, but she's stubborn. After 4 years of her behavior, we slowly cut off most contact except for family gatherings and such. She was, for the lack of a better term, third-wheeling our marriage. This past Father's Day, the siblings and significant others got together to celebrate at our home. Husband and I hosted because we have the space to gather safely. Mother-in-law and father-in-law get here. It was going fine until dinner. She had been drinking some. One of my sisters-in-law is pregnant and we were all talking about baby names. Mother-in-law was making a few small remarks about how husband and I would never hold a little bundle of joy like it was a joke. Then mother-in-law said something like, "Give the baby your last name so at least someone might pass on our name," to sister-in-law while looking directly at my husband. He told her to stop and she did for a while. Then we were cleaning everything up. I was in the kitchen with pregnant sister-in-law and mother-in-law came in and asked how we were. I said, "Fine, how are you?" And she had the audacity to say, "Not that great since my son married you." Sister-in-law told her to stop and that she needs to go back outside. But I said, "No, you need to leave. Go home. I don't want you here." I didn't say it in a rude tone or yell, just firmly. I know she had been drinking and influenced what she said, and I know I was upset and what I said was in the heat of the moment, but she had never once before attacked my husband's decision to marry me to my face. She did eventually leave with father-in-law after making a big scene in front of everyone about how I was throwing her out. Husband was on my side after sister-in-law and I told him what mother-in-law said. But father-in-law is mad at me for kicking mother-in-law out and how it made her feel unwanted by her family. A few of husband's sisters took their parents' side and think we, mostly me, are a-holes. I don't feel like I was in the wrong for telling her to leave, but after a week and a half of sitting with it and talking to his siblings, husband is feeling iffy about the situation and thinks mother-in-law was wrong, but maybe I should have just let it go because we don't see them often. Am I the a-hole for saying what I did? Edit. Every case is different and every person's body is different. For me, my doctor told me I was not able to have children at all. I can't have them. No chance at all. And my doctor said it was from the PCOS. But it's not like this for everyone. This is just my case. Well, again, short answer, OP is definitely not the a-hole. Mother-in-law is the one that can't get over the fact that her son is not gonna have any kids. The couple are at peace with not having any kids, so mother-in-law shouldn't be sticking her nose into this topic because it's none of her business. But anyway, like I said in the beginning, there's an update, so let's move on with that. After my last post, mother-in-law called me and asked if we could sit down over coffee and talk about what's been going on. I said how awful it is hearing her belittle me and husband for not having kids, especially when it isn't possible and that our decision won't change. I explained that her attacking my marriage was uncalled for, especially in my own home to my face. She gave a non-apology by apologizing for how I felt and said she would make the effort to not say rude things about my marriage or stance on children, so that we could have a relationship with her. She followed this apology up with, "You need to understand that I just want what's best for my son." A few days later, pregnant sister-in-law called and told me that mother-in-law called one sister-in-law saying if my husband didn't marry me, She'd have a grandchild from him, and she still didn't agree with us not having kids. I was hoping she'd be able to change, but she didn't last 2 weeks. I was angry, but sat with it and read over what some of you said. This is a losing battle with her. There's no forcing her to like me or finding that solid footing. Plus, some of you mentioned that this isn't my battle to fight with mother-in-law. That's on my husband. And you're right, they're not my parents, they are his. I talked to my husband about it, and he talked to his parents and had a firm conversation with them. I wasn't there for it, but father-in-law showed up the next morning to see us. He apologized for his behavior on Father's Day and his part in it. He went on to say that mother-in-law feels strongly that her son should be having children, that everyone should have children, but that it's not any of her business what we do, nor is it his. It was a genuine apology. He said she made me feel unwanted in my family where I was very much wanted. We cried a lot during our talk. As for my mother-in-law, she has not reached out to me at all, and I don't expect her to. Husband and I decided we will be no contact with her. We will talk to father-in-law, have him over sometimes, but we won't be speaking to mother-in-law. We're going no contact with her, including not going to gathering that she's attending and excluding her from those that we host. I felt awful even having this convo with husband about no contact, not wanting to alienate him from his parents, but he brought it up first, which shocked me. A few of you suggested that it was because he was so used to the treatment, and he agrees. It's been second nature to him for so long that he just brushed it off. He sees this now and he's firmly on my side, which I'm grateful for. As for the sisters, one of them is still firmly on mother-in-law's side, but the rest of them, on varying levels, understand why we're going no contact. And that's how grown-ups solve their issues. Considering all the mother-in-law stories that I've read on this channel, the way these guys dealt with her was fantastic. They did it as a couple. Husband has a spine and can stand up to his own parents, and did, which made father-in-law come around, also most of the sisters. And OP and the community were right, this wasn't her battle, it was her husband's. Of course it sucks that the mother-in-law is a boneheaded idiot, but if she won't change, then you go no contact with this toxic behavior. You don't put up with it because that's basically enabling it. But like usual, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Alright, and on that note, let's move on to the final post. This one is from user Elephant Dogs. So my sister, 30 female, and I, 33 female, have always had a contentious relationship, and I've never understood why. She has always been condescending and rude to me. She also still lives with my mom and is very close with her. Last year, I got engaged to my fiance, 36 male. Everyone was congratulatory except for my sister. Her response was, "Wow, you're really trying to beat me down the aisle, huh?" She wasn't dating anyone at the time and still isn't, so I didn't understand her response. I would also like to add that my parents had a very messy divorce. I tried to remain neutral, but my sister obviously sided with my mom and has completely gone no contact with my father. My mom made it very apparent how much she hated him and frequently reminded us he didn't love us at all. We still have a strained relationship, and once I got engaged, my mom made it very clear he was not to be invited to the wedding at all. I would also like to add my fiance and I are paying for the wedding with the help of his parents. Neither of my parents have offered to contribute, although my maternal grandmother did offer to pay for my veil. After much pleading from my mom, I asked my sister to be a bridesmaid. Obviously, we postponed our wedding because of lockdown restrictions, but are hoping to move forward with it next year. In February, all of my bridesmaids got together to go look at bridesmaid dresses. All of my other bridesmaids ordered their gowns that day. My sister refused. 2 weeks later, I went shopping for my wedding gown. I had invited my maid of honor, my mom, and my mother-in-law-to-be. My mother insisted my sister come along. Every dress I tried on, my mother sat straight-faced and gave no input. When I found the dress, she just shrugged. My sister had wandered off, and I didn't care to ask where she was. My sales consultant could see how sad I was over my mom's lack of enthusiasm for the dress, so she brought me back into the fitting room to put a veil on me. By the time I came out of the fitting room, my mom and my sister were gone. 2 seconds later, my sister came out of a nearby fitting room in a bridal gown, and my mom was gushing over her. I started crying and left empty-handed. My mother-in-law was absolutely mortified and actually brought me back with my maid of honor to purchase the dress and paid for the deposit without my knowing. I got really lucky with her. She's an angel. I finally flipped out, and my mother and sister responded by telling me I was overreacting and being selfish and self-centered. I said my sister didn't need to be trying on wedding gowns as she wasn't getting married anytime soon, and I felt it was really inappropriate to play dress up. My sister said she was trying to find something to wear as a bridesmaid as she refused to wear the hideous black dress I had picked. After this, I decided to remove my sister from the wedding party. She has since been threatening to show up at my wedding in a white dress and has been making other threats to ruin our wedding when it happens. I told her I don't want her there. My mother told me I am being completely ridiculous and immature and told me if my sister isn't at my wedding, she won't be either. Am I the a-hole? No, OP, you are not the a-hole. Both your sister and your mother, they both wear that crown proudly. Hopefully by the time your wedding happens, your mom understands she's being an idiot and backs you up, as well as telling your sister to suck it up and wear the black dress, or to not go to the wedding like you requested. But how you explained your mother to be, that does seem like a long shot, so I would say good riddance to both of them. You don't need your sister there because she's clearly an idiot, and if your mom refuses to go because your sister isn't going, well, so be it. I would go as far as to hire security and a bouncer, and if they so much as see her in the horizon, kick her butt right out of the wedding. But then again, that's just me. Maybe we will get an update sometime next year after the wedding, we still don't know. But for now, OP, you are definitely not the a-hole. And so, we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and click like. If you did click like and you still haven't joined the community, just click subscribe. It's right next to it. Also, don't forget to visit the Lost Genre subreddit where you can cross-post stories for me to feature in videos, or share your own if you feel comfortable. Alright, and having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.